Heather, one of my colleagues is someone who looks at this whole issue very, very closely. So Hasni, I believe that you would want to ask some question to our panel.
Well, just to begin with, the basic question, today's coming together of Saturn and Mars is supposed to, is bad news, a period of unrest for the country. Is that correct?
Dr. Sashi.
No, not at all. There is no reason to believe that there would be any bad impact of this. Just think about this. Saturn and Mars appearing relatively close to each other happens roughly about once every 2 years.
So
do we see any pattern of misfortunes every 2 years? We don't see any such thing. So, there are objects in the solar system, there are events which are going to be periodic. So periodicity might be a little complicated because there are many objects and there are objects. So there is, you don't see very specific periods. But these events keep happening periodically. So do we see misfortunes periodically happening related to these events? Whenever a celestial event happens, astrologers come up and predict such and such thing will happen, such and such thing will happen. But, I have done several statistical studies to see whether there is any correlation between such events and life of people. And there is no correlation.
Is it really, at the end of the day, a debate between faith versus science? Is it a debate between astronomy versus astrology? What is it all about?
See, I'll define it in one line. Faith and intellect, they are not two poles apart. Basically, they are the conditions of the same mind. So basically, it depends from person to person whether you believe it or not, but in the end, both are the sciences.
Essentially, both are sciences, and therefore, there is no reason for us to be afraid or to be worried about what's happening tonight.
No reason to be worried.
Because
certainly, there's no reason to think that this is going to affect our lives in any other way than the fact that beautiful event, if we watch it, we can enjoy.
Is it just a fact then? Is it just a fact? Because more increasingly we find that the number of young people in particular, often it's said that the Gen X in particular doesn't believe in anything which is remotely to do with superstition. But we're now finding that increasingly, whether it's a Tuesday or a Saturday or a Thursday, it's the youngsters who seem to have all these questions. Why is that?
See, it's not a matter of the days. Basically, on the whole, this is a science, okay? Whether I'm a 20-year-old girl or I'm a 50-year-old woman, if I am born in this world, I am all set to go to north, east, all the directions, all the topography, all the geography, and everything is going to affect me. So basically, in the end, I'm affected by all the sciences. So we have to believe it.
Okay, Suhasini, Heather, we're talking about Gen X. You yourself are a part of Gen X, Suhasini. What do you make out of this? Is it something which we just consider it as a fact, or is there some seriousness to it?
I think most of the time one just doesn't have the time, but in hindsight it's always easy to say, oh, that's what my horoscope said, and this is what it actually ended up being. Of course, we do a lot of political punditry here as journalists as well. We're always asking the question, is the government going to last its full term, Bhupen?
Okay, Dr. Narak, before I take a quick break, the fact that every time, whenever a kid is born, there is always this whole debate about planetary positions. On a day like today, when a kid is born, what do you think would be happening within the minds of the parents?
See, as far as the planetary positions are concerned, I'm very sorry, I cannot comment on that. Because see, I'm not an astrologer. But yes, there must be some effect of the planet. I really don't want to comment on this fusion of the Saturn and the Mars. But definitely, if a kid is born, all the planets, they have different effects on a particular time and on a particular kid.
We'll take a quick break at this point. So far, you will see the comments from two panelists who feel that this really is a science. But after this break, we'll be joined by Professor Devendra Shastri. He's the head of department of the Sanskrit at the Delhi University. He'll be joining us and he'll be looking at this whole debate from a different version. Is there any reason for us to look at this debate from any different angle or not? See you in a moment. Don't go anywhere. Making the that really at the end of the day, it's faith, it's belief which really matters. That's the third question which you're going to put before our viewers today. That does belief in these events mean that we are not modern in our outlook? Just because we as a society feel that we have liberated views, we have modern views, what does events like what's happening tonight, the celestial embrace that we've been talking about, how does it affect us? And as I've told you, well, our third guest is on the show with us, Professor Devendra Mishra, Head of Department of Sanskrit at Delhi University. Professor Mishra, your response to this question, in the end, does it really affect our lives?
Certainly, according to our astrology, And our Dharma Shastra, the whole universe is represented within our body. Mars is here in our body as blood. Sun is here in our body as bones and eye. Buddha is here as vasa, weight, charbi. Jupiter, knowledge and ears. Buddha, our nose. So the whole universe, the whole...
So what does it mean? When these two planets come together, when they come so close to each other at 0.5 degrees as we've been talking about, how does it affect my life? How does it affect the life of our viewers?
It will affect the life of some Rashi governed by some ruling planet. That is Athupate Sangya Sistralabha Ripukarmanam. Those Rashis, this event is happening in Karka Rashi. So it will be very good for those from whose Rashi this Karka Rashi is 3rd, 6th, 10th and 11th.
So good for some and not good for some?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Dr. Ratnashri, your response to this?
The fact of its effect on a particular Rashi, etc. Let me just tell one very interesting thing which people usually do not get to know and ignore. If you think that you have your Rashi something based on your birth date, if you look at the position of the planets and astronomically it's wrong.
Okay.
It's not even true. I mean, the data itself is not, the data on which these predictions are based is not true.
I'll get you. I'll get you to respond to that question, Dr. Ratnashri. I'll get you to respond to that question, because the fourth question, which I'm going to put now, is this whole debate, astrology. Is this a science or is this a myth? Is this something which just exists on our minds, or is there facts, statistics, data, as Dr. Ratnashri was pointing out, which is there to support this? Now you respond to this question, Dr. Ratnashri. Are we talking in terms of a scientific debate, or are we talking about a debate which actually doesn't even exist and we're just debating about it simply because there's been this celestial combination which has been happening?
To some extent, that's what, I mean, I feel that there is really no relevance, first of all, I mean, to astrology from this very basic fact that the basic data on which these such predictions are based, which says that a particular Rashi, etc. Now, over these things were set about 2000 years or more back, at which time the Rashi's positions was as what we think now. But they've changed because of the position of Earth.
Dr. Naran, has Vastu got to do anything with astrology?
No, they are the two sciences which work parallelly, but astrology...
They work completely independently?
Yeah, they work completely independently.
I want to inform you. I want to correct these sayings. Number one, some people went to Madras High Court challenging that astrology is not a science. Honorable Justice Khalilullah decided that it is a science based on experience of thousands and thousands of years. Some persons went to Andhra High Court. The High Court decided that it is a science based on experience of so many generations. Now these very people went to Supreme Court. The Supreme Court, Honorable Supreme Court, ordered on 5th of May 2004 that it should be taught. There is no harm in teaching this. It does not belong to a particular religion, a particular caste, and it is a science based on experience of generations and generations of 1,000 years.
And indeed, that's the main reason why. Indeed, that's the main reason why there are several universities all across the country now which are also thinking in terms of either they have already implemented this decision of teaching astrology as a science or are thinking in those terms. We'll take a quick break at this point, but when we return, we'll put all questions which we have on our minds to Dr. Shastri, to Dr. Mishra, as well as to Dr. Narang, as well as Dr. Ratnashri, as to whether this really in the end affects our immediate life. See you in a moment from now. Welcome back to the CNN IBM Sunday Special, where we're looking at the big question on the night when a big celestial embrace of sorts has been happening, when Saturn and Mars, two planets, are at an all-time proximity to each other in such a manner that they've never been so close to each other. Does it really affect your life and mine? Well, Dr. Mishra, you've said that ultimately it does affect. In what way does it impact? Tell me in the short term, in the next 1 week, for instance, what kind of an impact can it play on anyone's life?
Okay. According to Varahamihira, who is an ancient Acharya of astrology, he has written in Brihat Samhita that Vede Vrishti Vinashaha Veda Swardam Mahakulanam cha. This event, the effect of this event is that there will be some short rainfall in northeast direction, like Nepal, northeast frontier, China, and that direction.
So maybe the Met Department could be looking at what's happening tonight very, very closely, and maybe the views that you're expressing, the Meteorological Department will be looking at very, very closely.
Okay.
Dr. Ratnashri, would you agree with what he's saying?
No, not
or would
at
you say
all.
that
Not
it's
at
something
all.
which is just speculating?
Not at all. But I would like to ask our viewers, I mean, they can write into us, nehruplantarium.org is our website. I can give dates for any celestial event in the last 20, 30 years, whatever. And they can see for themselves, has there been any pattern of misfortunes or good fortunes in their life related to celestial events? I can guarantee that, I mean, we would not, because I have done several studies.
10
So,
seconds
no,
to you, 10
no,
seconds
not
to you,
at
Dr.
all.
Narayan.
I don't
Who are the
think
kind of people who come to you seeking consultancy in Vastu? Are these the old people, the young people, certain sections of society, or all people?
See, my major clientele is the young people. Basically, as you know, as we are getting modern, you are facing so much of problems that you get back to your own old science. So there's all kind of age group, but majorly I'm being approached by the young people, by the people who are commercially, commercial, residential, showrooms, farmhouses,
Right.
all kind of people.
Final comment for you, Dr. Mishra. Why should you be saying that it's only because of the celestial combination which has been happening today that you can actually determine that there is going to be a rainfall? Because ultimately the Meteorological Department or the scientific community in particular has all kinds of tools. Why should we be going by what's happening tonight? I mean, can't we predict otherwise?
This meteorological department, the predictions of this department are maximum 60 to 65%
Right.
true, while the predictions on the basis of astrology are 90% true.
That Dr. Mishra, I'm sure that may be debatable. That may be debatable whether it's 60 to 70% true or 90% true. As Dr. Ratnashri is pointing out, it's something which is debatable. I'm sure it's something which will continue to be debated, and I'm sure that in the next few years also perhaps there could be some kind of a tool, some kind of a mechanism in which we could come to a proper debate, to a proper conclusion on whether this really is a science or is this just a myth. Well, do log on to the website, CNNlive.com, and tell us what you think about it. Do you think that this is a science, or do you think that this is just a myth? Thanks for watching. I'll see you again next Sunday with another debate of Sunday Special.